If there's one myth in karate that deserves to die, it's that Sanchin leads to premature death. I don't know how this one started, but it seems to have been around forever. Even if we look into the writings of Miyagi Chojun Sensei, the founder of Goju-Ryu, he talks about wanting to be able to prove that it was possible for a practitioner of Nahate to live as long as their counterparts in Shurite. So clearly this was a common thought back in those days. It's easy to see why this viewpoint has become so popular. When we see performances of Sanchin, often they're done with too much tension. You see the reddening of the face, you see the veins bulging from the neck, you see the hard, forceful breathing, the body shaking. All these things are more for show rather than the actual go. When we perform Sanchin, it should feel more like a stretch. It has a lot more in common with yoga than it does with powerlifting. But the culture of Okinawa is very macho orientated, especially in those days where recreation consisted of kind of gathering in friends' back gardens, lifting rocks so you could lift the heaviest rock, swinging the chishi, striking the makiwara. And these are things that were popular whether you did karate or not. This is just what young men did, trying to prove who's the strongest kid in the neighborhood. So now when we take the Sanchin, it becomes a little bit of a competition to see, well, who can look the toughest, who can look the strongest. And a calm, peaceful, placid Sanchin does not look as impressive or powerful as someone who's sweating their balls off, bulging in the temples with their veins, sweating all over the place while being struck with slaps, sticks and punches. Some of the problems attributed to Sanchin include high blood pressure, too much stress on the heart, haemorrhoids. These are things that are caused by applying too much unnecessary tension. And when we think about Sanchin, I want you to think about dropping the word tension altogether. There should be a firmness, but it shouldn't be tense. There should be an engagement, but it shouldn't be tense. People often talk about the Valsalva maneuver, whereby the breath is either held whilst the muscles are held under intense contraction, or there's a really forceful breathing, a really forceful exhalation through a closed airway. Neither of which have any place in Sanchin. Again, this viewpoint comes from watching people who misunderstand the practice, who misapply the practice, who misuse the practice and use it as a show of machismo rather than to get what Sanchin is actually trying to teach in terms of connection, engagement, grounding, controlling the breath, creating a brace, all whilst remaining relaxed, calm and mobile. With regards to the breathing, when we exhale, there should not be this, it's become popular within Goju, within Kyokushinkai, within all schools of karate, to close the airway, screw up the face and perform this weird exhale that I don't know where it come from, I don't know why it's there, I don't know how it's become popular. It's just stupid. The making of the breath audible is a teaching aid. It's for the teacher, it's not for the student. So it's for the sensei to be able to ascertain the timing of the breath in relation to the movement. So whenever there is an inhale, it is combined with movement. It is never in isolation. When there's an exhale, it starts and stops with the movement. So there is never one happening without the other. We do not move without a breath, and we do not breathe without a move. So the audible breathing was a training aid or a teaching aid added by Miyagi Chojun Sensei, trying to make the breathing more audible so that it was possible for him to hear these things, see these things, so that he can train his student better. Because you cannot rely upon the student to tell you they're doing it right. Sometimes it can look right, but it cannot be right. So he was quite smart in adding that audible cue so that he knows whether you're breathing right. He knows whether the time is correct. He knows whether the right pauses are in place, whether the right locks are in place in terms of the contraction of the core and engaging the body at the right time, sealing the breath. This is why the breathing was made audible. But over time, it's become perverted. It's become, again, who can breathe the loudest, who can breathe the longest, who can do the most. There's always this competition to do more, harder, faster, stronger, louder, whatever it might be. This is the competition we find ourselves in within the martial arts, certainly amongst young men. And as a result, we see the true path of Sanchin, or the true practice, deviate from what it was supposed to be, and it becomes something very different. So in terms of breathing and engagement, what we're looking for is connection. We want to feel a stretch of the body, not just a tightening. If you tighten something, it's very easy to pick up and move. If I lock the body in, someone's trying to pick me up, and I just tighten like this, I become, in a sense, a saucepan that can just be picked up off the stove and placed wherever. We want to become heavy, and there needs to be a sink in this. So whenever we're performing the Sanchin, whenever we are breathing, exhaling, there's a feeling of stretching, right? I'm not just tight. I'm not just locking my body up, trying to withstand. There needs to be a feeling of stretching my rear heel down towards the ground, through my posterior chain, through the back of my arm, through the tricep, through the forearm, out my little finger, as I try to extend how far I'm able to get from my heel by stretching. My tailbone goes down, my heel goes down, my head goes up, my arm goes out. So it's like I'm being stretched from 3 points. The body has a feeling of being stretched. It's this feeling of stretch that provides the firmness and the engagement to the body. It's not just locking and holding position. Locking and holding position, you will have no grounding. You will float your stance anytime you meet resistance. So there needs to be, anytime I meet resistance, I need to be like a surge of water, like a tsunami. It needs to overwhelm and press. There is a pressing, there is not a tightening. It's very different. Likewise with the inhale, if I just screw my face up, screw my nose up, screw my mouth up, and try to pull as hard as I can, again, I'm going to float my body. This is something we don't want. Sanchin is about holding your position. Sanchin is about being able to control the engagement distance, the position we find ourselves in. It's about dominating position, as we said about with the clinch. So as I inhale, I need to go heavy. There needs to be a feeling of pulling downwards. If I lock my body, again, I will float every single time. There cannot be a tension. There needs to be an engagement. So likewise, as we said about with opposites stretching, when I come inhale, I pull. I do a hamstring curl here. I do a pull up here. So I'm pulling down, I'm not pulling back. There's a pull up here, there's a hamstring curl here. Same time, this hand pushes forward. There's a pressure forward. There's a pressure inwards on this elbow. There's a pressure outwards on this wrist. So again, I'm not just tightening, I'm not just squeezing this position as hard as I can. There's a change. This comes in, this goes forward, this goes out. These 3 points of engagement, these 3 points of intention provides a resonance. It provides a firmness down this whole line without me just having to squeeze my muscle tight. One will have an engagement, one will have an application in terms of muscle development, one will just make you tired. When we talk about the breathing, we want it to be audible, but we don't want it to be overwhelming and overpowering. There's nothing worse when I'm checking Sanchin, blasted in the face by breath. Bits of spit, getting bits of dinner, getting pieces of people's soul in your face while you're performing shimmy. Don't do it. We don't need to breathe that hard, okay? You won't do it in a fight, so don't do it in your Sanchin. It does not make sense. When we inhale, I don't need to be here. Doing this, I'm immediately lightheaded, my ear just popped, my nose, I feel like I need to clear bogies out. It's no good. My body floated, no good. Quiet, it's still audible, I can still hear my breath. I don't need you to hear it. I don't need the guy on the other side of this field to hear my inhale. I don't want to try and inhale all the crops. I'm just gonna make it just loud enough for me to hear it myself. So now I know the timing starts with my pull and locks at the point at which that movement ends. Now with the exhale, equally, I don't need the guy over there to hear my exhale. I don't need to frighten my dog. I don't need to scare all the birds. I just need it loud enough that I can hear it so that I know. So as here, it starts with the movement. Locks with the movement. At no point have my veins come out. At no point am I shaking. At no point am I spitting at you on the camera. I'm not having to. this big lion roar that's become popular in certain schools of Goju Ryu, which again is for external appearance, it's for the audience, it's for, I dare say, enjoyment of the people watching. I don't know who would enjoy that, but listen, if I'm opening my mouth like that in a fight, I'm getting knocked out. Trust me. The face shouldn't change too much whether you're inhaling or exhaling. Again, it's become popular to screw up your face and close your nostrils when you're inhaling. So this pursing of the lips, this closing of the nostrils, to try to restrict and limit the amount of air coming in through the nose. The idea being you can extend the period at which you are inhaling, so inhale for longer. I don't like that. It's become popular because of a certain teacher that everybody tried to emulate. It's his habit. And again, we have to be aware of habits that we unconsciously pick up from our teachers, from heads of association, from whatever it might be, because these little peculiarities of the individual bleed into the art and to the style overall. So be careful of copying the facial expressions. You want to have your facial expression, not someone else's, right? So whenever we screw the face up to inhale, this way, what you're in effect doing is closing the nostrils. You're restricting, you're limiting the amount of air you're able to take in through the nose to extend the inhale. We don't want that. Just breathe normal. Just inhale. I want to, in effect, I want to open my nostrils. So we need to relax the face. I need to become more passive. I need to become a more meditative, Buddha-like expression on your face, rather than this ferocity, this fierceness, this I'm working hard because look at my face. We don't need that. Passive. Likewise, when I exhale, I don't need this big lion roar where you can see my spit and you can see my fillings and you can see what I had for breakfast this morning. I just need, again, there shouldn't be too much of a difference in my face between inhaling or exhaling. In the Bubishi, again, if we're coming back and, you know, we're tying all this back to history and, oh, well, this is how it's always been done. Okay. Well, if this is how it's always been done, why in the Bubishi does it advise you to hide your breath from the opponent? Why in the Bubishi does it tell you to strike when someone's inhaling? Why has this also been handed down within the folklore of karate that you should not show your breathing to the opponent? But then when it comes to the fundamental training apparatus of Goju Ryu, we show it for the whole world. We make it so obvious and so overt that it becomes habit, and it just makes no sense. So if we're doing this in our most important kata, but then we're not doing it when we fight, what's the point of having the kata? Okay, so trying to tie this all back in full circle, because we've gone on a little bit of a tangent and a meander as we've walked around the field. We started off talking about health risk with Sanchin. Hopefully I've addressed how a lot of this is based on misinterpretation or watching people perform Sanchin who have maybe misunderstood what they're doing, or they're trying too hard, or they're copying something, or it's more about the show. True Sanchin should be very, very beneficial for your health. True Sanchin, when you finish your kata, you should feel exhilarated, you should feel energized, you should feel ready, you should feel engaged, you should feel alert, awake. You should not feel tired, you should not feel out of breath, you should not be red in the face, you should not feel dizzy, you should not be seeing stars. All these things are a clear indication that you've practiced wrong, you've applied too much tension, you've been too forceful, too restrictive with your breathing. You need to calm this stuff down. Relax, enjoy the movement. There should be a feeling of stretching. It should feel like a good yoga practice, so that when you're finished, you're calm, centered, gathered, and ready to face whatever this beautiful day throws at you. If you want to learn more about how to practice your Sanchin correctly, how to understand the biomechanics of it, how to understand the correct breathing sequence, check out my Patreon, where we go in depth into all elements of Sanchin, how it applies to the rest of the Goju system, how it applies in terms of fighting, specifically in the clinch range, and how you can better understand and not fall foul to stupid, ridiculous rumours on the internet.